Hello, and welcome to this episode of Making Transitions and Creating Your Encore Life. This is where you can learn to do what you love, when you want, and where you want. You can create and live your dream. If you're ready to get started today, please contact me at lynn@lynnfrias.com. And as always, thanks for listening. Well, this is episode 213, and the title is AI an ally or a threat for a seasoned worker? So, and I've actually, to prove that it's not, I've used AI to do some research as I went along the development of this episode. And in some ways, this is a bit of an extension from last week's episode on transferable skills. You know, we always worry about technology, but for those of us who have been around a while, if you're still using a hand calculator and a grid sheet paper, well, you're going to be way behind anybody and these are replaced by someone using a digital spreadsheet like Excel. On the other hand, as I was told once by a boss early on in the days of utilizing computers, digital tools mean we can just make bigger mistakes faster. And if you have any doubts about that, please reflect back on the financial crisis of 2008, where they created a lot of marvelously complex financial packages and didn't know what they did. So it's one of those things. Experience still has a role to play, even in the midst of all kinds of exciting technology. And is our experience needed when you have things like AI to do it? Well, it's estimated that by 2030, 25% of the workforce will be 55 years or older. And that's about 41 million people. And actually, the fastest growing segment of that group will be those who are 75 or older. So it's one of those things where we better get ready if we want to participate, and the companies better be ready to work with us on that, because we will be a significant force in the economy. And a lot of my inspiration for this article came from an AARP article, which was entitled, "Should Older Workers Worry About AI?" And their thing is basically AI is going to lead to new roles for people 50 and up. Actually, it's going to lead to new roles for almost everybody in one way or another. So, you know, clearly we, as well as anybody, we're going to have to develop some new skills. And the article also talks about, you know, as we get older, some of the jobs that are physically demanding are just going to not going to be possible for us to be successful in. So even there, we should be looking to how do we utilize technologies to allow us to keep participating in the economy. So the whole AI, and I won't, you know, you've had enough hubbub about AI and all the things, whether it's, you know, things you have to worry about or anything like that. And certainly, since it's unfamiliar, it is can be daunting for people who are more experienced or seasoned. So we're going to go through kind of 10 of the ideas that may be pluses or minuses for how we think about using AI. Obviously, the first one is not just for seasoned workers, but for almost any worker. How many jobs are going to be displaced by AI? And it's going to be real. I mean, I've actually seen some of it happening where, quite frankly, just as automation is often, you know, taken over routine tasks, well, now AI allows it to take over even more routine tasks, and those that are maybe in white collar jobs, not just physical tasks. So, you know, if you're doing entry level work, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So, because AI can do that easier and faster. So you have to be thinking about, will it displace you from your job? Maybe. But on the other hand, as we'll get into it, there are other things that's going to come into play. You know, the very first one is it really, at this point, doesn't replace human creativity. It can correlate things, but it's basically working with past information. Now it can put it together in unique ways and things like that. But for example, you know, if you're doing something, it can't tell your stories. You know, I've said, well, give me a story, and quite frankly, it'll make one up if it doesn't find one. But Well, those stories, I mean, that really is how often we show difference to people, how we connect with people, how things get work gets done, how people buy into new ideas. It's through stories. And at least at this point in time, AI doesn't create compelling ones. Certainly not like you or I can create more compelling stories. And quite frankly, one of the things is as seasoned workers advance in our timeline, we want to keep simulating our mind. And what I'm certainly found is, learning how to use AI, learning how to use these prompts is really keeps me quite mentally active. It's kind of interesting to talk to AI, as it were, and that's one of the things I had to get used to. It wasn't just Google searches. You could actually ask it to do some thinking for you and with you. And now I was just on a phone call today where a colleague of mine put in a prompt, said, "Here's what I want you to think about, but first, I want you, the AI tool, to ask me some key questions that might help you in this search." So it's kind of an interesting thing, but again, I believe that whole idea of we have to keep learning and growing no matter what age we are. Uh, AI can really be an interesting tool in that. Another thing AI really can't do, at least at this point, is you know can't deal with interpersonal skills issues, emotional intelligence, and I've talked about this in the past that uh, it just doesn't have the while it can get a lot of data, it doesn't know how to weave it together like a person with empathy does. So for you or I, if we're faced with a person who's in distress, AI is only so good at that, and not, quite frankly, at this point, not very good at all. So it's better, we can address people's concerns. We can help people find their way on things. Mm. The fifth idea is how can companies value the experience of leadership and older workers? And why is this experience irreplaceable? Again, this is a topic I think I've raised before, where um, I know people like you, I, and other seasoned workers, at the very least, we've made a lot of mistakes and learned from them. Whereas some people, they don't know what they don't know, and so we still will have that. Um, and I've used this example before, but I had a senior manager say when they first started, with data analytics, 10 years ago or so, said, "Well, I got people who can analyze the heck out of data, but I need to have somebody who can ask the right questions." And sometimes that's what seasoned workers bring. You and I would, AI can't ask its own questions. And so the fact that we can look at the whole big picture, we've had some experiences to think back through. Now, there's an knack to asking questions in AI that you have to learn, but still, I think we can provide great value because we can ask really insightful questions of the AI tools. And then, another one of the pluses is AI can automate tedious tasks because, if I had to, for example, yeah, if I was going to research an article and I needed to look up 10 different books to find sources for something, it would take a lot of time in traditional ways, even using things like Google and whatnot, or even in my own library. Well, now all of a sudden, you can get basic thoughts about things as well as, creating the source documentation for books or quotes and stuff like that. It's much easier. So for me, that's allowed me to spend more time thinking about the topic and what I'm going to say about it, and less time doing the research. And that gets into the kind of the seventh idea. We need to think of AI as a collaborator rather than a contender or a competitor. And I like to think of it as you need to view AI as your personal intern. Now, that intern is tremendously smart, has an extremely wide database of knowledge, but isn't necessarily know what questions to ask. Again, as I said earlier, they don't know what they don't know. So this is where you can, interact with AI, and because it can be an interaction, you can really get some. One, you can get some new ideas, but then you'll be the one that probably fits them together, asks some follow up questions, those kinds of things. So it's AI is really, like having a not just one, but a whole group of interns that are at your beck and call. Then the eighth idea is, we do need to adapt to technological changes. The workplace is dynamic. I've seen some ideas where, quite frankly, most of the jobs by 2030 may not even exist today. So, if we're going to be participating in the workforce, which we need to be, we have to get some new skills and knowledge, and so it's going to be a learning process that we really need to be committed to, but it can be a very exciting and rewarding process too. So it's one of those things. Yeah, we can't keep doing what we were doing for the last 30, 40 years, but we couldn't even then. We had to adapt as we went through our previous career life. So we're just going to maybe adapt a little faster than we did before. Then the ninth idea was organizations, quite frankly, have a role here. Uh, if they think they're going to just discard everyone 55 or older, that's great. But one, there aren't that many people coming up behind. And two, that's, as I said earlier, 25% of the workforce they're going to be ignoring. And I don't know that everybody can do that. So it's going to be imperative that they recognize that their older employees can still add value. They may need to be upskilled. They may need to be retrained, but they bring with them talents. And, quite frankly, if they've been with them a while, they're probably pretty good employees. So as opposed to reaching out to find a brand new talent who may or may not be a good fit for your organization, organizations probably are going to need to learn to work with the talent they have and help them grow and develop. And then finally, in the same vein, there's the idea of we have elder wisdom versus AI precision, because because we've made all those mistakes, because we can see a bigger picture, a much longer time frame. That's the kind of thing where even if you conjured up, what are the 15 key ideas I need to do in this new product? It can come up with an answer, but it's probably going to be helpful to have somebody think about those answers to see, okay, some of these may not be a good fit. And quite frankly, AI may have kind of just made up some of them for all we know. But this whole idea of wisdom makes a difference. And as I've said many times before, as seasoned employees, we have to think about being both mentors and interns. So we need to share our wisdom, help develop new wisdom, but also, learn wisdom from new people or people who have more skills and knowledge in some of the current technology. So for that, I just want to, again, reiterate on the balance, I think this new AI technology will actually be a positive for those of us who are seasoned employees, if we are willing to seize the opportunity. And quite frankly, for some people where, they've been in jobs in the past that were more physically demanding, I think this provides opportunities for them to, again, grow, develop, and participate in the future economy. So with that, I want to continue, go back to some of what I said earlier here is think of AI as a collaborator. Think of it as your group of interns that you're working with. So you have your own staff now in terms of Chat GPT or one of the other AI tools. So think about how you use that and how to use it most effectively and help you participate and grow. So I'd really like your feedback on this, whether I've said something that sparked your interest or sparked your anger, or you may not have even understood what I was talking about. Please reply or drop me an email. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And with an Encore life, you can be creating value in the world beyond just winning that next pickleball game. You can do the work you love when you want, where you want, and you can live the dream. So if you're ready to get started today, please contact me at lynn@lynnfrias.com or head over to the website, lynnfrias.com. You can maybe sample a few podcasts and get on the email list. So with that, we'll be talking with you soon. Thanks.